With the 41st pick in the 2014 NBA Draft, the Denver Nuggets select Nikola Jokic out of Serbia. Also, get a fire quesarito at your local Taco Bell, 2 for $5. Man, I gotta say straight up though, like, I cannot believe that the only draft footage we have of Jokic is a Taco Bell commercial. Like, whoever is in charge of marketing at Taco Bell during that time frame, seriously, they need to hire them as an NBA scout, because they were probably went up to like their Taco Bell boss and they're like, hey, this Jokic guy, he's gonna be pretty damn good someday. Like, get the Taco Bell commercial up there. It will definitely pay dividends later on. But in all seriousness here, man, for today's video, what I want to talk about is the NBA awards, because I think they've all been announced, or some of them have. The NBA's been very strange with how they handle the awards in the past and the current present. Sometimes they do it like right after the NBA season, which is a great idea because, you know, the regular season, that's when we care about the award. That's when it's fresh on the mind. Sometimes they wait till like a month after the playoffs where just nobody cares anymore so they can do their little award show. And in this case, it's like, hey, here's your MVP at 2:37 on a random Tuesday. And that's where we're at with things, man. Yo, what's going on, guys? Crispy Flakes here. So the NBA awards have, for the most part, been announced. I think at this point, we pretty much know who's going to win the rest of the awards. It's not really any big-time secrets. But I do want to talk about that, especially all of the first-place votings for the MVP award. Because as we all know, man, Derrick Rose. I love Derrick Rose. Like, I loved him on the Pistons. He was so much fun to watch. Like, it was just cool seeing him. I respect his story, everything about him. I just don't know if a man should have got a first place vote as far as MVP, man. But we'll get more into that. Before we get going on today's video, if you guys don't mind dropping that like, 1,000 likes is always the goal. And of course, you know, subscribe if you're new to the channel, man. We're on the road to 300,000 subscribers, getting so close each and every day. Alrighty, so let's talk about these awards. So recently, Coach of the Year was announced. Now, people thought it was Monty Williams. That was completely different, like, voting and system. Now, if Monty would have won it, I would have been cool with that. Like, he's a great coach. He's really changed up the Phoenix Suns and everything. But Tom Thibodeau ended up winning it from the New York Knicks. Now, my original vote, or I guess like my predictions video, I did vote for Tom Thibodeau just because I look at the Suns and I look at the Knicks, and those were two losing cultures. So both these coaches came in there. And I obviously got to give credit to the players, you know, Julius Randle stepping up and Chris Paul being a leader for the Phoenix Suns. But when it comes down to it, like, these coaches really stepped up and just brought a different mindset, a different coaching style to these teams that made them great, right, man? So you look at Tom Thibodeau, and I just think his situation with the Knicks, you know, from bottom to start was a bit worse. And a lot of people had criticisms of Thibodeau coming to be the coach of this team, and it's worked out beautifully, man. So him getting Coach of the Year, I have no issues with that whatsoever. And not to mention, too, like, outside of, again, like, Derrick Rose and maybe some other, like, minor pieces, for the most part, the roster remained intact. Like, Julius Randle was appeared as somebody that was just, like, a ball stopper on offense. Now, I understand, yes, in the playoffs, he wasn't great, but this is a regular season award, and he was fantastic in the regular season. So, you know, a big part of that's Julius Randle, but also coaching and Tom Thibodeau trusting Julius Randle and getting him in the right situations and play call to make him a fantastic player. So that's going to lead us into the next award. You know, obviously at this point, Julius Randle did win Most Improved Player. So some of the other guys that were kind of like runner-ups was Michael Porter Jr. and Jeremy Grant. One guy I noticed that was not on this list was Christian Wood. I think he had too many injuries, though. He had a fantastic start, but obviously, you know, once the injuries add up, it kind of, you know, limitates your abilities to be the most improved player, you know, if you're not on the court. So do I think they got it right with Julius Randle? I would say yes. My only argument against Julius Randle winning the award over a guy like a Michael Porter or Jeremy Grant is that I actually already think that Julius Randle was a pretty damn solid NBA player. Like I said, the efficiency and sometimes the ball stoppage on offense was a big-time issue, you know, in previous years. But for the most part, like, you look at Julius Randle back on, like, the Pelicans, he had a really good season then. So, but I really just think, you know, it comes down to more than just stats. It's just really how you carry yourself on the court. So I'm cool with Julius winning it, but I will say, like, as far as, like, biggest improvement, I still think that would be either Michael Porter or Jeremy Grant. Obviously, Jeremy Grant was more of a role player on the Denver Nuggets, went to the Pistons, and put up big-time stats. Now, the issue with him winning it is that sometimes, you know, stats, for a player to win Most Improved, I really think that the team needs to be, like, a good team, because if you're just going out there getting buckets, like, these are all NBA players. They can all do that. So I guess that's my vote against Jeremy Grant. And then Michael Porter, you know, I think he kind of had like a hotter end to the season. So I don't know if he was consistently great the entire season, but he was damn amazing, man. Like, we can really maybe look at Michael Porter as an all-star in the next season or two. He was that good for the Denver Nuggets and really took over that scoring load once Jamal Murray went down with injury. But overall, Julius Randle winning it, no issues with that whatsoever. Next up, we have Defensive Player of the Year. That has not been announced yet, and I think it's going to be Rudy Gobert. Not too much to say about that. I do think he's been the best defensive player this season. Love Ben Simmons in his defense. I would have no issue with him winning it. Draymond Green, I just don't think is going to win it this season. I think it's going to be Rudy Gobert, and that one's pretty simple for me. So Rudy Gobert, Defensive Player of the Year. Although my original prediction, I think I said Ben Simmons, but that was more like middle of the NBA season. Sixth man was Jordan Clarkson. So the sixth man award is always kind of strange because I just wish they would look at it in a different way. Now, I do think Jordan Clarkson deserved it. No doubt about it, but pretty much to win the six-man award, it all comes down to scoring points. And I feel like there's so much more to basketball than that. Sometimes I do wish they would look at more like all-around players or great defensive players. Like, can you imagine like Matisse Thybulle, what he brings defensively, but he could be like near playing like damn Defensive Player of the Year off the bench, but he would never win the six-man award. So, sometimes I wish they would look at that in a different light, because you look at like years past of people that win the award, Lou Williams, I think J.R. Smith won for the Knicks one year, obviously Jamal Crawford. It really always comes down to who is the best scoring six-man off the bench. So, I don't know. I just feel like some other aspects should kind of be looked into. Like, a center is never going to win six-man. Wait, I guess that's not true because I didn't Montrezl get a few years ago. But he was a great scorer. So, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, man. I don't know. I just feel like they would look beyond, like, points. But that's just my opinion on that. Although Chris Boucher, he was probably pretty damn close to. I guess centers can win it if they score a lot of points. I'm talking more like defensive, rebounding-oriented centers. Or, like, passing, defensive-oriented, like, small forwards. I don't know, man. Just rambling. I guess this is my stage here to talk about scoring and how it's so, just viewed upon when it comes down to these awards. It's not that big a deal, Crispy. Calm your bitch ass down. Okay, I'm calm. Just had to make a point about that. Alrighty, next up, we are going to talk about the MVP. That has now been announced as Nikola Jokic. But before we get into him, man, I want to talk about the other 5 players that did get first place votes, starting with Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose did get one first place vote. I have no idea who it was. Probably some big, huge New York Knicks fan out there. Don't really know. Or maybe a Chicago Bulls fan. We all know they love D Rose over there still. But straight up, man, like that would be just like an award or like a record that would never be broken. The first player to ever get voted MVP, not only off the bench, but also not get sixth man of the year. That's absolutely crazy to think about. But like straight up, like Derrick Rose was a big part of the New York Knicks. I do think they were already a pretty damn solid team before he got there. But at the same time, like when he did get there, he was just like that missing piece. It's like, this is who we need out here. He was amazing for them, against the Atlanta Hawks in the playoffs. And it really comes down to it, man. I really think we would have saw the Knicks move on if it would have been like a guy like Julius Randle or RJ Barrett could have kind of pulled things together. But it was pretty much, like vintage MVP Derrick Rose in the playoffs. And nobody else really stepped up all that much. But straight up, do I think he should have got an MVP vote? No, I don't. Like, whoever's doing that, like, you gotta take that vote more serious, man. Like, there's so many people out there that would kill to be just part of that voting process and get a vote like that. So it's almost like a throwaway type of thing, and I just think it's kind of disrespectful to other people out there that are hoping to someday be able to vote in that process, or really disrespectful to some of the other great players out there. So it's not that big a deal. It's one vote, but it was pretty horrendous, man. Probably should not have happened. Another guy that got one vote, which I'm a little surprised by this, is Giannis. You might argue and say that Giannis actually had like his best NBA season, like especially towards the end. I mean, this guy was putting up just like demigod type of numbers. But once again, big part of the MVP award is the story, and Giannis simply did not have the story. Like, he's won it already before, and we kind of like been there, done that. The kid that was slept on in the draft and was picked, what was he, like 16th pick in the draft or something like that? Skinny kid, and so we've already seen the story, like the great player he's become. That's why he did not win it again. And if that's the case, LeBron James would have like 10 MVP awards by now, right? So, that's why he only got one vote. Another guy that only got one, that I'm very, very surprised by only getting one vote, is Joel Embiid. In my opinion, Joel Embiid, well, at one point he was second to Jokic in voting, but I guess as the season went on, Steph Curry kind of took that place. But, straight up, like, for me, he was top 3. So, yeah, I mean, I guess, like, the injuries were there. I don't think he was as injured this season as previous seasons, though. When he was playing, he was damn dominant. Like, he was right up there with Jokic as like the most dominant player in the NBA. He only got 1 vote though, man. I was expecting a few more, you know, maybe away from Curry or the number 3 guy right here who got 2 votes in CP3. So Chris Paul did get 2 votes. You know, much similarly to Derrick Rose, big time, you know, culture change type of player out there that just brings a certain mindset and expects, you know, much out of his team and teammates. I guess the same thing, teammates and coaches and stuff, and Chris Paul. So yeah, I'm still a firm believer that the Suns would have been a great team without Chris Paul. Would they have been this good? Hell no, man. Chris Paul is like one of the top 5 point guards of all time. But straight up, I do think that it was the perfect moment of Chris Paul being that missing piece, but also a Suns team that was ready to take that next step. Now, without Chris Paul, they're probably looking at like a 5th or 6th seed in the Western Conference, so that is value nonetheless, man, nonetheless. And then we got the guy getting 5 votes being Stephen Curry. Well warranted. I mean, this guy, just like some numbers he put up there, man. But, you know, the Warriors didn't make the playoffs. I do think that's important at the end of the day. I feel like the MVP has to lead their team to the playoffs. It's the same case I kind of made for Jeremy Grant, most improved player. Like, you can be improved, but if that improvedness is not leading to the playoffs, then, you know, it's not really all that great for the team. Now, that's not Curry's fault. I mean, without Curry, this Warriors team would have been like last place in the NBA. So there is something to be said about that. But also, you know, to pay respect towards the MVP award, what it really means and the value of not only putting up numbers, but also, you know, getting to the playoffs and getting a high seed and, you know, all that good stuff, right, man? Steph Curry, if he does what he's doing this season, next season with like Klay Thompson and whoever they get in free agency, you will definitely look at Steph Curry probably winning an MVP award next NBA season, right? Assuming it leads to the playoffs, which definitely should with Klay Thompson coming back. And then we got the guy getting 91 votes, well warranted in my opinion, Nikola Jokic. Jokic getting extremely disrespected, by the way. There's a lot of people saying that he is the worst MVP of all time, which I don't even know what that means. How can you be the best? I guess in theory, somebody would have to be the worst MVP, but that still makes them an MVP. And what's that say about the rest of the NBA? In my opinion, the NBA talent is at an all-time high. So for a guy to win an MVP against the most talented league of all time, at least in theory, I would say one of them of all time at least, and then call him like the worst MVP makes no sense to me whatsoever. But I do think Jokic deserves it. He's just been, you know, especially that great story, man, him being like the 41st pick in the 2nd round of the draft. Like, that's a beautiful story right there. I don't know if we'll ever get another player like that low again to win an MVP. I think the closest we ever really got was probably Isaiah Thomas on the Boston Celtics, you know, a few seasons ago, where he averaged like 30 points per game because he was the last pick in his draft. I do think the next big story we'll probably see in the next like 20, 30 years is an undrafted player, which would be great because that would really, man, can you imagine that story, an undrafted player winning an MVP award? Because that just goes to show that if, you know, everybody counts you out, but you believe in yourself, you can still do it. And that's pretty much what we got with Jokic, right? Like I said, he was on a Taco Bell commercial when being drafted. So, yeah, man, shout out to all the awards out there. Very entertaining regular season. I wish they would get more consistent with how they did the awards. In my opinion, you know, I know teams are preparing for the playoffs and everything like that, but the award show doesn't really need to be a thing, especially like a month after the regular season. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. And, you know, it's not the damn Oscars, right? It's not the Oscars or the Emmys, whatever they're called. I don't know. But my belief is that they should do it right after the regular season, fresh in everybody's mind, you know, kind of like that gap between regular season and playoffs, or even like to do it within like the last few games of the regular season. It's pretty much all decided at that point anyway, so that's extremely, you know, that's one of the extreme changes I would like to see made out there. And, yeah, if they want to do an award show, you know, after it's already announced, that's fine. Like, I'm sure players would still show up to that. People would still watch that. But that's all we got for this video, man. Thank you all so much for watching. And that's all we got. Okay, I'm going to go play some basketball, man. Yeah, I started this video early today, man. It's like damn like 8 a.m. over here. So, yeah, early start to the day. All right. Peace out, guys.